Amelia the triple hybrid. Family beginnings. My mother's a werepanther, and my father is a hybrid of dragon, werewolf, vampire. I was born on the battlefield with my mother. My father was taking care of Rose, my big sis. For 2 weeks I've been with my mom. Her name's Bella. We've returned home and my father opens the door. Bella, where have you been? Rose said. Dad, look in her arms. Sky looked and smiled joyfully. Welcome to our families, Amelia, he said as he leaned down to look at her. Seeing Fathers beginning 1. As Amelia was sitting next to Bella, Sky began to hum a song. One that places memories into the minds of those whom hear the song. Amelia's eyes widened as she saw this. Sky was about 12 years old when King Solomon died from a deadly illness. He had a sister, her name was Alice. She was the only one who knew what it took to keep each other alive. Hey sis, what keeps you going? Sky asks. Alice smiled and said, my will to keep us alive. What keeps you going, little brother? Sky looks down at the ground and said, me? As long as I've gotten a reason to fight for others and protect the innocent. The first, suppose. Alice places the meal on the picnic blanket and said, you truly are like father, my dear brother. Sky laughed and said, love you big sis. He hugged Alice and fell asleep in her chest. Alice smiled and hugs him. It's going to be okay, little brother. A few hours later. Alice had just put Sky into the bed in the inn and she sat next to her cute sleeping little brother and turned on the radio before falling asleep next to him. The following morning, Sky was cooking some bacon and oatmeal for Alice when he hears someone knocking on the door. So he opened the door and was shot in the arm with a crossbow dart. Alice woke up and saw her little brother being dragged out. Alice grabs her rifle and sword, heading near the closest tower. She loaded a round into her rifle and scopes into the kidnapper. I am nothing but a single bullet. My path is as one I follow, she says quietly before squeezing the trigger. The enemy was shot down and Alice bolts towards Sky, picking him up and rushing him back to the inn. Sky? Sky, can you hear me? Alice says as he began to wake up. Sis. What happened? Alice hugged Sky tightly and said, we need to go to our other place, though I know you don't want to. Sky nods and slowly stood up. Let's go. As Alice was packing, Sky was rigging explosives anywhere he could. Alice? Are you ready? Alice puts the last of her stuff in a sack and said, yup, let's go bro. Sky smiles and carries Alice to the back of the inn's property and opens his wings. Hold on tight sis, he says as he flew into the clouds. The story of Sky and the Ripper. Father, can you tell me about your brother? Amelia asks. Which one? Jack the Ripper, or EJ, Sky answers. Amelia shyly said the Ripper. Sky sat both Bella and Amelia on his lap and began to tell his story of his most feared brother. You see, I was in London, I think it was in the 1800s. Jack's mother was very abusive. So we teamed up and killed her. I was the one who taught him the arts of killing and escaping and cleaning up the evidence of a murder. Hey Sky? What now? I mean, we've got no home to go to, and Jack saw me eating the victims' flesh and organs, so he halted his question and sat behind me in silence. After I finished eating, I answered him, I've got a place in mind, my dear brother. We walked in the shadows until we came across an abandoned cabin near a foggy lake. No human has exited this place alive. This is Camp Crystal Lake. Jack smiled and followed Sky into the cabin. What's with all the skulls? Jack thought to himself. Sky sat Indian crossed in front of a fire and closed his eyes. Jack, join me. Sky says as he pats his hand on the tiger-colored rug he was sitting on. So Jack sat next to his brother and had questions. Sky opened his eyes and said, I'm sure you've got questions, I shall answer only 3, Sky said in a mid-tone voice. Jack nods and asks his first question. Will I still be able to murder those whores? Sky nodded. Question 2, what did you mean when you said no human had ever walked out of this place alive? Sky took a breath and said, we aren't alone, an immortal monster lives here, in these woods. His name is Jason Voorhees. He's our cousin. Jack nods. Question 3, how do you know about all the ways to act and murder? I want the truth, brother. Sky exhales and said I was never born with a mom nor dad. I was raised by both assassins and dragons. My full name is Skylar Ignitus Winters. And my family of assassins threw me into a volcano and abandoned me at the age of 10 years. That's when I was found by the king of multi-elemental dragons. He found me sleeping in the lava. He took me in and raised me as if I were his own. When I was 15 he began to train me. On my 17th birthday my body and grown scales, dragon wings, and dragon organs. I was out flying, looking for danger. That's when I found you, Jack. Sky stood up, stretching and yawning. I'm going hunting, wanna come Odie or wanna stay? Jack wanted to stay, so Sky grabs a rifle and some bullets and went hunting. Jack explored the house a bit before he encountered something horrifying. He found a room filled with bones and organs. The smell was rotten, so he closed the door and turned around. You shouldn't have gone either, brother, Sky's voice said from the ceiling. Jack looked up and said, I know, sorry, won't happen again. Sky growls demonically but hesitated. Sky jumped down and hugs Jack. It is time, brother, go kill some bitches. Jack pulled out a knife and ran through the shadows and went to kill. Well, Amelia, I'm tired, I'm gonna take a nap now. I shall tell you more in time. A new family member and her betrayal. Sky? Sky. We need to talk. Meet me on the rooftop, Bella says as she woke up Sky. He sat up and stretched. All right, see you there. He says as he took a sip of water and walks out the door. The two meet up and Bella asks, why haven't you told me these parts of your past? Sky cracked his neck and said, there is a time and place for everything, and I wasn't ready to tell you those parts of my past because I wasn't sure of how to control my blood-sheeted rage. Sorry. Bella leans her head on Sky's shoulder and said, you're right. But nothing will come in between us and make me hate you. I love you, and that's that. Sky sheds a tear and said, thank you. Amelia shouts, Mom. Dad. You may need to see this. So Sky and Bella walk inside and saw that Rose was painting a traumatic bloody and gore picture on the wall. And someone was helping her. Natalie? Sky shouts in surprise. She turned her head towards him and said, hello, Uncle Sky, in a creepy tone. Sky smiled and said, why on the walls? I'm glad to see you too, but you do know that you're cleaning it up, and Rose here is going to help. Then we can talk. Natalie frowns and said, Fine. She grabbed a cloth and spray from her pocket, cleans up the mess quickly. Sky walks Natalie to the couch and asked Bella to give Rose a bath. After she and Rose left the room, Sky asked Natalie, so what brings you here? She smiled and said, my friends have turned on me and forced me here. So until they fix their corrupted minds, I'm stuck here with you. I'm sorry, but I'm now in your care, Uncle Sky. He sighed softly and said, very well, just don't stir up any trouble. Natalie hugs Sky and said, I promise you I won't. Will you, via Uncle? Bella is brushing Rose's hair and shouts, Natalie. Come brush Rose's hair, please. Natalie ran to the bathroom and did just that. A big misunderstanding. The following morning, Sky was in his garden watering his black roses when he heard something or someone approaching him from behind. Morning, Uncle, you're up early, Natalie says as she walked up to him. Sky sheathed his blood-red dagger and said, morning, Natalie, why are you up so early? Say smiles and hops onto his back and said, I couldn't sleep so I came looking for you. Will you spend some one-on-one time with me? Sky sets the watering can down and walked Natalie to his room. Why are you really up, sweetheart? Natalie blushed and says, I. I was in a bad situation. Your daughter. She threatened me. Sky's eyes widened as he asked she did. Natalie nods and hugged him. Sky hugged her and put her in his bed. Then he hummed a mystical song before leaving the room. Sky began to cook breakfast for everyone when he felt a presence in the kitchen. You've got some explaining to do, Amelia. Sky quietly says. Amelia appeared from within the shadows and said she's going to replace me? Sky let out a brief sigh and said no, she is not. She had to stay with us, otherwise she'd be dead. Nobody is being replaced, no more threats, okay? Amelia smiled in understanding and said okay, father. Sky continued to cook. Collapsing with a fever and the beginning of. Sky was sitting on a chair thinking in a very deep thought when Bella bit his shoulder and said, something wrong, Sky? He slightly turned his head and smiled before collapsing with a fever. Bella quickly carried Sky to the fireplace and puts a hot rag on his forehead. Amelia, Rose, and Natalie walks over to Bella and asked what happened here. Sky mumbled, it has found me. It is stronger than any of you, he will be here soon. Bella and the others raised a brow and asked, It? Who or what is It? Sky was sleeping so he couldn't answer. Bella had a hunch though. The three girls exit the area and began to talk. What is he talking about? Bella took a brief sigh and said It is his mother. Amelia asks, what do you mean exactly, Mom? Bella says, sorry Sky, but they need to know this. It all started the day he was born. Who is It? His birth mother was very violent and abusive. Every time he would go to do something with his little sister, she would punch him and fracture his arm or leg. You see, the reason he would take his little sister to do something, was to protect her from his mother. Despite getting abused every day, Sky never stopped protecting those whom were precious to him. However, one day his mother stabbed Sky in the heart with a needle and poisoned him. She took him to her underground dungeon. As he woke up, he was covered in serious wounds and was being tortured by her. He struggled to break free from the shackles that binded him from freedom. He was trapped for 32 days, 7.5 hours and 52 minutes. After being tortured so much, Sky saw his little sister get murdered by his mother before his very eyes. That's when he finally broke. He was covered in crimson red flames, causing the shackles to melt. Sky lunged onto his mother and knocked her out. He chained her in the cell and tortured her for days. On day 6, she died from poison. Sky freed his mother's corpse and tossed her into a volcano. As Sky walks back home, he had flashbacks from his sister's execution. He fell to his knees and a set of wings appeared from his back. His fingertips were now claws and his vision had increased by 27 times the average eyesight. Sky flew home at Mach 28, he was home in almost no time. He grabbed his sister, bit his wrist and poured some blood into her mouth before carrying her home, to a place he was always welcome to, Camp Crystal Lake. As Sky carried his sister into a log cabin, his old friend, Jason Voorhees, walked in and looked down at the dead child. Sky asked him, could you save her, my friend? Jason stared at the child and walks out of the cabin to get some medical supplies. After 5 minutes passed by, he returned and handed Sky a medical kit wrapped in vines and stood in the corner of the room. I'm sure you can figure out the next part, but his mother seeks revenge for her murder. The Princess of Call of Duty and a great meal. Sky woke up and saw that Amelia was sitting next to him, laying her head on his lap, sleeping. Hey there, sleepyhead, were you with me this whole time? Sky asks. Amelia yawns and nodded. Sky pats her head and stood up. He saw something in the garden, so he went to check it out, alone. As he stood in front of his black roses, he saw that one was missing. He felt a faint breath behind him, so he slashed his claws behind and heard a slight growl from above him. Mother, You were never a match for me, just admit it, he shouts. Suddenly her presence was gone, so he walks back home. Amelia was playing Call of Duty Black Ops 2 next to Sky's mother, whom of which was covered in claw marks and blood. "Hello son, care to join us?" his mother asked. Sky wasn't sure, but he hesitated and said of course, so he picks up a controller and sat in between the two, and played the game. After many hours of gaming, Sky stood up and said, "Who wants fried chicken?" Amelia shouts, "Me." While his mom smiled and said, "Sure, let's see how much your cooking skills have improved." Sky smirked and headed to the kitchen and pulled out a chicken that he shot just recently. He does the usual cooking requirements and puts his secret ingredient into the chicken. After about 7 minutes, Sky puts the chicken onto the table and shouts, "Dinner time." Rose, Natalie, and Bella rushed downstairs and immediately sat down, with their forks and knives in hand. Sky's mom was shocked to see them get there so fast. "Dang, they must really love your cooking, Sky," she said quietly. Sky smirks and passed the chicken around the table.